Thank you. Welcome, everyone. So first and foremost, my name is Richard Lasrado, as mentioned in the slide, with 21 MBA with 21 years of study abroad counseling experience. We follow smart counseling method. The smart counseling method is mentioned in our slide is because we are one of those few study abroad counselings in the world who could do counseling for all countries. So US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, UAE, Europe, any other country that you name, we will be able to do the counseling from all levels to seventh grade to PhD and for almost all programs. So we are one of those few study abroad counseling center who could do this. So we follow the method. That method is called the smart counseling method, which allows us to basically reach out to as many countries and as many universities. So this is an important function of us or important USP of us that we want to highlight. I take this opportunity to welcome students of Presidency University, Bangalore. This is an exclusive webinar specifically for your university. I was checking the university website, looking at the campus. You have a beautiful campus. You have a beautiful, facilities that you have, and the programs that you have are having something that basically is one of the best. So it's a prestige, to be part of such a university, and I'm sure you are taking the maximum benefit of being part of the Presidency University Bangalore. So to start, I will just brief a little bit about Education Abroad Counseling Center. It started in Feb 2000. Our vision is to educate the youth by providing them with study abroad career options worldwide. Our mission is to help 10 lakh high schools and graduate students achieve career growth using pre-application technology. We have till date counseled more than 13,500 students. Our USP, as I mentioned, is we do provide counseling for all countries, all levels, from starting seventh grade to PhD, and all programs. We provide guaranteed admission because of the research-based counseling, which is a pre-application based technology that help us to basically evaluate students' profile and match them with the admission requirements. Having said that, let's come to the session today, which basically I'll cover two important parts. First, basically, everybody wants to know why study abroad, why I should study abroad, why not in India, why study abroad, why this webinar, right? So if you are attending this webinar, that means you have that particular doubt and you want to clear that doubt. So we'll be first talking about why study abroad, and then I will mention your general study abroad counseling process. It's more or less same. It will vary a little bit from country to country because each country has their own unique thing. But I will try to give a general thing which can help all of you. Depending on which country you can go, you have to make some slight changes. So let's start with why study abroad. Okay. When I'm going to say this, it's not that I'm criticizing anybody. It's about take it positively. I'm just going to highlight few things why study abroad from a point of view. First of all, basically, Indian education system is more based on practical knowledge. We go by the Indian education system is more based on theoretical knowledge. I'm sorry for that. So it's more based on theoretical knowledge and it lacks practical knowledge. So what it does is it slows down the learning process of the student because a student conceptually knows everything, but he is not knowing how to apply it. So he is not able to relate it to the real world. So it restricts the potential growth of the student. And since he is not able to relate it, he is not able to understand that for this work, what new skills I should gain. When you don't know this, then when you are going for your actual basically job, they find that your qualification is good, your concepts are good, but you're not able to relate it, and that's why your job opportunities are limited. So this is one point that basically probably education systems are working in India now. They are changing. When I saw Presidency University campus, I knew that the change is there, and your campus as well. So this is very important part that why students go abroad. The second is basically they lack global recognition. Some of the educational institutes or most of the educational institutes in India don't have global recognitions. So you are basically when you're going abroad, when you're competing with students who have done their education from abroad, that global recognition is must for you to have that advantage. So when you have two students, one from India and one from abroad, probably the preference is given to an international student because the student has an international degree and international exposure. What's more is basically students spend years studying, working hard for getting that degree, using a lot of his energy in getting those good marks, and then when he gets a job, his job is not as per the qualification. It doesn't match the qualification. The salary doesn't match the qualification. So when your job and your salary doesn't match the qualification, that leads to dissatisfaction. Whereas in abroad, you are basically your job and salary matches the qualification. You can get the statistics because they are transparent. So they reveal those statistics on the net. So you can Google it out. So the jobs and salaries are matching the qualification. So overall, basically, satisfaction level is high in students who are going abroad. Too much pressure on students. Now, our education system is more on theoretical based. It's more on the importance of grade, percentage. So we give too much importance on grade and percentage. So what happens is that you are not looking at the other development that you have to do as part of your education curriculum. Regarding basically if you're going to work on your presentation skills, regarding how you're going to work on your resume, regarding basically working on those other voluntary services or sports, which can help you to highlight that you have a lot of things in your resume. Also, because of the continuous pressure that you have, the exams are that throughout the year, the students basically are so focused on basically studying and getting good grades that they don't do any other extracurricular activities like music, dance, or basically, doing any other extracurricular activities that is of your interest. Whereas if you are looking at universities abroad, they have a lot of extracurricular facilities in-house. They have a lot of clubs, associations, they have a lot of things that are basically helping you to basically develop yourself, okay, which can develop your skills, which can develop your other interests or hobbies, which can help you to basically build your resume, network with people, which are very important in today's world. And also, the education system is not purely based on grades. It's overall based on the throughout participation, how your discussions are, how you contribute. It's based on basically, how you bring input to various discussions. All those things are evaluated. And so it's not just based on one particular thing. So it gives you enough time to develop your other skills as well. We basically, since we are more dependent on grades, to get those grades, we start mugging up. Rather than understanding of the conceptual knowledge, our importance goes to basically, getting those good grades. It doesn't matter whether you understand or whether you don't understand. Also, what happens is basically logical and critical thinking is not given much importance. We don't try to find out the reason or the story behind the concept. We just want to mug it up because that's how we get marks. And when you are not able to basically understand the concept, then you will not be able to apply the concepts. Since we are so much focused on grade, we normally don't try to basically go for understanding of the concepts so that these concepts that you are going to understand is finally that is what you are going to apply later on in the industry. And since you have just focused on grades, what is left is but you don't know how to apply. And then you are talking about employability factor. We have restricted choices of subjects. We basically, our education system is based on streams. So commerce stream, science stream, arts stream, engineering stream. Based on the streams, we get subjects. We don't have basically different choices of subjects. Human brain can take lot of different subjects based on the interest level, but we have basically allocated them into boxes, and these boxes, within these boxes, you can take the subjects. Whereas in abroad, a commerce student can take a biology subjects. In India, you can't do that, or any other subject. So you can do a mix and match of those subjects as well. You can learn it basically. More so at the undergraduate level. And at basically graduate level, since they don't have a lot of specializations, okay, in terms of subjects, what they do is then the student have to go abroad and study. Because today there are a lot of growth opportunities in different areas, and you need to have a lot of specialization subjects to meet those demand. And if those subject specializations are not available, then the student is left with no choice but to go abroad and study. Research opportunities. This is also a very important factor that most of the education system and most of the education institutes in India don't have sufficient research facility. They still have work on those old labs. The equipments are not upgraded, latest technology. So if the student is working on a lab which is basically based on 10-year-old, it will not give you the output that you are looking at. Further, basically, you don't have those research subjects. So if you are looking for to research on certain subjects, these subjects are not available. So students basically want to go abroad and do the research, because in abroad there are a lot of research facilities, there are a lot of research subjects. There are universities that basically offer thousands of research facilities, thousands of research subjects. And most important is that we don't get research funding, whereas these universities get a lot of research funding. The Fortune 500 companies do spend on these universities for doing research. So since they get funding, they can pass on this funding to the university students, and that's how the students get benefit, basically in terms of lower cost of education, in terms of getting full scholarship, etc. So these are few things which I wanted to bring it before you, before I actually try to explain study abroad. Because for whatever reasons, you have to know why you want to go abroad. What is your reason? Okay. Now, let's come to the main counseling process. I have divided this process into three parts: application, test, and documentation. I have divided it just for your understanding, because we normally understand tables or graphs. So I have divided into tables, but all three have to be done simultaneously. So let's suppose you want to go abroad for studies. Now, if you want to go abroad for studies, then you have to understand the education system there. Each country has different education system. So let me give you generally what happens. Each university is independent. So each university being independent, every university has a right to decide what program they are going to offer, what will the price of the program, policy, admission requirements, etc. Okay. Some of the basically most of the education systems are Indian, are based on colleges affiliated to universities. So university decides the framework, subjects, guidelines, and the colleges follow that. In abroad, each institute is independent. So we use the word autonomous. So each university is autonomous. Okay, it's an autonomous university. That's what we say. Okay. So being independent, let's suppose if you want to do MBA in international business. Okay. Then basically two universities offering that program or specialization, the course content could be different, the pricing is different, the policy is different, the admission requirements are different. So now the question comes, how do you know whether you will get admission in A university or not? I'm not going to name any university because I don't know which countries your interest is, but whichever country, let's say A university you want to go, how do you know that basically you will get admission there? Now, each of these universities are independent. So basically what happens is they offer bachelor's, master's, MBA, doctorate, postdoctorate, thousands of specialization, research facility, on-campus accommodation, etc., etc. So they are divided departments. And every department has, let's say, 2 or 3 professors who are going to evaluate your admissions. They are called admission committee. So what happens is these admission committee, we email the profile. That's called pre-application. We email your name, your date of birth, your education qualification year-wise, your academic achievement, your work experience, if any, your research experience, your project experience, your extracurricular activities, and whatever you have that you want to highlight. And ask the admission committee, what is the chance of getting admission? Now, the admission committee will look at your profile and compare the profile with students they accepted last year. Now, if it is a pandemic year in this time, so they will be comparing with a non-pandemic year. Okay, and then they will let us know whether admission is possible or not. Now, the question arises, why do the admission committee do that? Now, understand, in abroad, most of the universities have student to faculty ratio. A student to faculty ratio could be 15 to 1, maybe 16 to 1, maybe 17 to 1, maybe 18 to 1. So when you are going to the university, you can check out the student to faculty ratio. So it could be, let's take for this example, maximum 18 to 1. So in that 18 to 1, there could be something like international students acceptance rate. So it is not that all 18 students are international. So it could be 60%, 65%, maybe 70%. So international students acceptance rate, let's take maximum again, let's take 15 students are international. The remaining 3 are those domestic students from that country. Every government tries to protect their own students because they doesn't want that in the competition their students lose out. So they need to reserve some student seat. So of that 15 students, they will not take all 15 from India. They will take 1 from India for that specialization. They offer thousands of specializations. So thousands of Indians. But overall, in that specialization, they may take only 1 from India. In some universities, they may take 2 from India. That's maximum. So when you are going to study for your specialization, in your specialized subjects, there would be only you who is going to study from India. Why? Because the university is accredited, the university is ranked, and for them, it is very important that they get students from different countries and not depend on just one country. So they want to get students from different countries because when you're going to study in any country, what you're going to do is it's not about conceptual knowledge. There is also going to be discussions, case studies, various things. It's also about basically people from different countries that you're going to learn and experience. That will help you to broaden your horizon, your thinking horizon. And that's why people go abroad. And that's why there are more ranked universities abroad than compared to in India. So once you do that, once the admission committee does that, they will basically they will try to avoid unnecessary applications by saying, no, your profile is not eligible. So you will not apply. And they will basically be able to attract good applications. So that is why they do the pre-application, to avoid unnecessary applications and to attract good application. And for us, it helps us because we know what is your admission chance in a particular university. Now, once the pre-application is complete, which may take around 3 to 5 weeks, you get the list of universities where you are eligible. Once you get the list of universities, you can go to the university website, check the program, check the ranking, check the location, check the cost, check the research possibility, check the funding, check the scholarships, whatever you want to check. Check and then decide which 5 or 6 universities you are going to apply. Why 5 or 6? Because your admission profile was compared with the last year profile. Same type of profile will not be applying to the intake that you are applying in future. So when you apply to 5 or 6, the law of probability takes place and you will be able to get admission in 1 or 2 universities because these 5 or 6 universities have said yes to you. So that's how the counseling is based, to help you to identify universities based on your profile so that you have maximum admission chance. Now, once you select these universities, what you have to do is you have to know what is your admission requirements that you have to fulfill. So different countries have different requirements. So this is little difficult to explain, but I'll tell you, let's take US universities. If you're going for an MBA, we'll ask for GMAT. If you are applying for non-management program, they'll ask for GRE. If you are past your 12th and you want to go abroad, they will ask for SAT 1, which is Scholastic Aptitude Test 1. And if they are looking to apply for Ivy League university, there could be SAT 2, which is a subject test. In GRE also, there could be a subject test in some Ivy League universities. Further, you need to take English proficiency test because we are from a non-native English speaking country. Our mother tongue is not English. And we are going to a country where we need to prove our reading, writing, listening, and speaking in English. So TOEFL or IELTS or PT are some of the tests. You don't have to take all of them. Even you don't have to take SAT, GMAT, GRE, all of them. If you're going for MBA, GMAT, if you're going for non-MBA, non-management program, GRE, master's program, let's say master's in computer science. If you're going after your 12th, then SAT 1. And if you're going for Ivy League universities, then probably you may have to look at SAT. Okay. So that's one of the tests that you are. Similarly, English proficiency, you will be taking either TOEFL or IELTS or PT or Duolingo. Most of the reputed basically university that accepts are TOEFL or IELTS. There is also PT, which is much acceptable. Okay. Duolingo is latest new one in the admission. So there could be some universities that may not accept Duolingo scores. So these three tests, either TOEFL or IELTS or PTA, are the safe bets. So once you get basically a good score in your standardized test, which could be your SAT or GMAT or GRE, and your English proficiency test, then you are basically going to look for your documentations. Some of the countries will not require these tests. For example, SAT, GMAT, GRE will not be required. So you don't have to give, only English proficiency test is required, which could be mostly IELTS. Let's say Canada, IELTS. Canada accepts TOEFL, IELTS, PT, but for visa purpose, IELTS is required, so you don't have to take the test twice. It's better to take IELTS. But UK, Australia, New Zealand, or Europe, IELTS basically or TOEFL, both are acceptable, but IELTS overall is preferred. So some countries may not even want your English course, not even want your SAT, GMAT, GRE, and they don't want your IELTS, TOEFL, PT. They will look at your English course in your 12th, and on the basis of which they can offer you admission. So they will not ask you, they will believe that India has good English language, we are good in English. So based on your English course in your 12th, they can waive your IELTS. UK also does that. So UK basically looking at your IELTS scores can waive off your IELTS score. Okay. Okay. Now let's go to the documentation part. Statement of purpose. Now, how many of you know about statement of purpose? Can you just put in the chat box your name so that I can understand basically how many of you know the document statement of purpose, what it is? Yes, Mustafa, SAT test is important in US. Please understand, I'm not talking only from US point of view. I'm talking in terms of general counseling because I don't know which countries you guys are interested in. So giving your counseling perspective of how things work so that probably you can you can make your way on how you want to approach. Okay, and this session is beneficial for any student who wants to apply for any countries. Okay, so I guess nobody knows about statement of purpose. Okay, let me explain that. Statement means essay. Purpose means future. So if I'm asking you, what is your purpose? You will say, after my education, I want to work as a marketing consultant, as an architecture, as a digital media expert, as some other basically, whatever. There are thousands of specializations, so you can work in different areas. So the purpose is your future. Now, statement of purpose is also a marketing document where you're going to market yourself to the admission committee, why you should be given admission. So what are you going to write in your statement of purpose? Purpose of you going to that particular country, purpose of you doing a particular program, purpose of you going for a particular university. What is it for you? What have you seen in that particular university or particular program? What are your strengths? What are your short-term, long-term goals? What are your dreams and visions in life? You can relate the past work that you have done, whether it is your project, your academics, your extracurricular, your work experience, with the future, with the program that you're going to do. If you are good in sports, you can tell that I'm going to contribute in terms of sports in your university, because they will be interested. So your statement of purpose is an essay about yourself. It's an essay about your future. It's a marketing document where you're going to market yourself to the admission committee, why you should be given admission, right? And I've given you those points on which you can look to write this essay. Second is letter of recommendation. Letter of recommendation is very important, because it's like statement of purpose is very, very important. Let me tell you that, because it's where you are going to directly communicate with the admission committee. So, the admission committee wants to know more about you, and you can talk about it in your statement of purpose. Okay. The universities abroad are more accredited and ranked based on the student satisfaction, student employment. There are a lot of factors students can help improving the ranking. So they are more interested in you. Now come back into letter of recommendation. Letter of recommendation is also important, because they want to know what type of student you are. So the best person to evaluate you as a student is your professors. So these professors are going to talk about you as a student, your professor, sorry. They want to know basically how you are as a student. So the best person to evaluate you as a student is your professors. So your professors are going to talk about you as a student, your quality, your aptitude, your liking. These professors can recommend for admissions as well as for scholarships. So when you are going to approach the three professors, it's important to understand what type of professors you approach, because they should be easily accessible. They should be responding to those recommendations fast, because you have deadlines that you have to meet, and they should be writing good about you. Transcripts, mark sheets. These are important. Your 10th, your 12th, your bachelor's, all the years of mark sheet, including your backlogs if you have. Your degree certificate or provisional degree certificate. All these are part of your documentations. Some universities may, it depends upon basically what program you're going, may have essays or may have portfolio as a requirement. Suppose you want to go for a music, dance, film, photography, or any of the fine arts program, drawing, or any other program. They may ask you for portfolio. Otherwise, normally some of them may have essays. For management program, they have essays. There are a lot of programs which doesn't require essay or portfolio, like computer science, architecture, electrical engineering, or basically business programs also in some of the universities doesn't require any of this. Resume. Your resume, your statement of purposes of regarding your future, your resume is about your past. So it can tell about how you were, what you achieved, what things you have done, what hobbies you have, whether you have got any awards. All this can be reflected in your resume. Your passport copy is important if you are going to basically apply for study abroad, because without your passport, you can't apply for your visa. Some of the university will require you to show you 1 year of funds. So if your parents is a sponsor, then they will ask you for a bank letter from your parents and a sponsor letter from the parents. Again, I'm not saying it's based on country to country. Some countries may not ask, some country may ask, depending on which country you are applying for. Example, USA may ask, Canada may not ask, because Canada basically you need to pay 1 year tuition fees in advance. And you have to put 10,000 Canadian dollars in GIC for your accommodation living. So since your 1 year funds are already basically blocked, they don't want your bank letter and sponsor letter. And if you have work experience, your work experience proof. If you have education gap, you need to explain your education gap. The next most important is your deadlines. The university may have 2 or 3 deadlines. The first deadline, let's suppose in my presentation, I have just given one intake, which is, I want to bring only one intake, which is fall, August, September, because most of our academics get over by, let's say, we all get our results by April, May, March, April, probably, not even May. Okay. And then we want to go abroad for August, September. We don't want to waste time. So if you are looking to basically go for August, September, let's say 2022, then your deadlines for August, September 2022 starts from October, November 2021. So your deadlines will approximately start 1 year before the intake. Some university deadline starts in the month of September. So accordingly, you need to plan yourselves depending on what type of university you are going to target. So if you are saying, if I want to go to those type of university which have basically September, October deadline, then you will have to start your preparation at least 18 months or 2 years in advance so that you get your test, get your documentation, everything in place so that all these are sent before the deadlines. Now, the first deadline is called an early deadline or a scholarship deadline. So in case universities offer scholarship, this is the deadline that you have to apply, the early deadline. And if you don't get scholarship, you are late, then you may miss on the scholarships. Sir, I did not get, can you explain again? Okay, Mustafa, what we do is, after this, I will take the questions. So maybe you can ask this and I will answer, because what specific you have not understood, I don't know. Okay, so you can ask that specific question, what you did not understand, and I'll explain that part. So your deadlines are 1 year before the intake, and you need to basically accordingly send all your application documents before the deadline. The first deadline is called the scholarship deadline. So if the university is going to give scholarship, this is the deadline that you need to target. You need to send all your applications and you can get scholarships. The scholarships can be huge. It can be 50% of the tuition fee waiver. It can be less than 50%, can be more than 50%, can be full scholarship. That depends from university to university. Also, it depends from the funding available for the university. Okay. We don't guarantee scholarships because scholarship is on merit based. So let's suppose in that 15 students that are going to join, not all 15 are going to get scholarships. Probably 1, 2, or 3 students may get scholarship if they are going to give scholarship. The type of scholarship that I'm talking about, which could be 50%, maybe basically little less than 50%, more than 50%, maybe full scholarship. Then it will be mostly basically those top 3 students they may qualify. So I don't know what your profile is compared to the entire students application that are going to have. But we do offer a guaranteed admission. That's because we are a research-based counseling center. So we have done your pre-application, we have evaluated your profile based on which we are going to give you the list of university. So that is one reason we can give that admission guarantee. You are applying to 5 universities which are ready to admit you. But in terms of scholarship, it is difficult to comment the same. So you need to apply. Also, the early deadline is important because suppose in the example that I gave you, there are 15 seats for international, 5 seats are given in early deadline. And if that 5 seats, one is Indian, you may not get admission in that university. Because they will only take 1 student for that program and that seat is already gone. So by applying early, you have a better chance. Further, suppose you have applied for early deadline. Okay, they basically don't give you admission because they find that your profile is there, but it is not reasonably good enough. So they can hold on to your profile for the next deadline. Because they don't want to lose out on good applicants. And in the next deadline, if you have a chance, you may get admission without scholarship. So in this way, if you are applying early, your chances of getting admission in a university is much more than applying late. So specifically, if you are applying to good universities, you need to apply early. You need to apply 1 year before the intake, the deadline, the first deadline. Now, once you send your applications, you may be sending an application for first deadline, second deadline, third deadline. So I have taken fall as an example. Fall is August, September 2022 in this case. Okay. So if you are applying for August, September 2022 or September, October 2022, then your early deadline is, let's say, September, October. After your application is gone, we will then do correspondence in the month of November, December. Correspondence, whether the application is complete, correspondence regarding whether the documentations are complete. Because admission abroad is not based on 1 or 2 parameters. They may be based on 5 parameters, 6 parameters, 4 parameters. So different universities have more than one parameter. Each parameters are given different weightages. For example, statement of purpose may be 10 points, letter of recommendations may be around 8 points, some other document may be 6 points, some 5 points. Based on basically total points you get and total number of applications they receive, you would then be basically, they will know whether what is your chance of getting admissions. So if you're going to send early, then we will try to find out basically at the time of correspondence whether your application is complete, whether your documents are complete, and regarding the admission status. So these correspondence are for the early deadline, it is made in the month of November, December. And for regular deadline, it is made in the month of Jan, Feb. And if you are sending, if there are T deadlines, if you are sent on the final deadline, it is made in the month of March. So accordingly, you get admission in the month of Jan, Feb for early deadline. Now you may say, sir, I have not completed my education qualification. I'm still basically, I have one more semester mark sheet exams to give and I have mark sheets pending. Some of the university, based on your academics of all the semester mark sheet that you have provided, let's say if it's a 3 years program, you have provided basically 5 semester mark sheets. It's a 4 years program, you have provided 7 semester mark sheets. Okay, assuming it's a bi-semester mark sheet. If it's a tri-semester, then automatically your mark sheets will be more. But I'm assuming bi-semester year. So all these mark sheets, based on this, they are going to evaluate and decide how you are going to perform. And then they will give you a conditional admission without your final year mark sheet. You will have to then submit the mark sheet later. Some of the universities may wait for your final year, basically mark sheet. Some of the universities may give you unconditional admission, assuming that basically you will get so and so based on your performance. Because if you are consistently about, let's say, 65%, 70%, 65%, 70%, they'll assume in your final also you will be getting around 65%. Now, if you are sending your application for regular deadline, you will get admission in the month of March, April. If you are going to send your application, the final deadline, you will get your admission in May, June. Once you basically get your admission, then you will have to work for your visas. Once you get your admission, you confirm your admission, you work for your visas. Different countries have different rules for visas. I will just tell you 2 reasons why visas are refused. Please understand, getting admission does not mean getting visas. Getting admissions does not mean getting visas. So you need to fulfill the visa condition. So 2 reasons why visas are refused. One is potential immigrant. Okay, why do students go abroad? Let me ask you that. One, some students want international degree, international exposure, and they want to come back to India. Some want to get international work experience, so they don't want to study in India. They want to work abroad, study abroad, because if they want study abroad, they will get work abroad. If they are going to study in India, they will get work in India. And some want to settle abroad. So easy process is study abroad, work abroad, automatically you will get PR. So you don't have to basically run through all the hard process, it's natural process. And because you have studied it in that country, your degree is acceptable, you are more employable, and you are basically, you understand the people, you understand the culture, you are not basically getting into a sudden shock. So all these things basically, they may be having. So visas are refused on 2 grounds. One is called potential immigrant. If they believe that you don't want to study, you want to settle, and you are using study as an option to basically get into the country, so they will reject you as a potential immigrant. There are various reasons on how they can evaluate that, which I cannot cover in this presentation, but there are. And second is financial. You don't have sufficient funds to meet your educational expenses. So again, there are certain things that you need that will identify that, which I will not be covering in this presentation. But these are 2 major conditions that you need to fulfill to get your visas for most of the countries. Okay. In case if you are looking to go for UAE or Singapore, then basically visa is almost guaranteed. Okay, you don't have to worry, because it is very difficult to settle in these countries. Or if you are going to apply for something like Poland, basically, then probably your visa chances are better. But if you are going to apply to US, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand, Germany, Spain, okay? They basically, a lot of people, France, they may basically look at all these factors. Now, some of them basically you have to book a visa appointment. So to submit your documents or, to go to the VFS, you have to book an appointment. Or some of them can allow you to do online. You don't have to. Some may have biometrics, so you will have to take an appointment again. You can apply mostly in most countries, you can apply for visa 4 months before the start date. Some country, they will take an interview. So a mock visa preparation is important because these interviews are 2-3 minutes. What are you going? They're going to evaluate. They are in their 2-3 minutes. They are going to understand whether you're a potential immigrant or insufficient of funds. So you need to be smart enough to understand how to answer these particular questions. And then the documentation preparation. Documentations are important if they basically look at documents. Okay, these are very important if they are basically if you are looking at documents. So these document preparations, all these are part of the visa process.
So thank you very much, sir, Richard sir.
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you for arranging. Thank you.